When I call you guys brothers, I understand that word is about we have accepted Christ Jesus as our Lord and Savior. So his blood make us brothers.
Your testimony blesses us too. And that's how we sharpen each other's iron, strengthen our faith through just the word and just through our discussions. That's why I love Tuesday night.
If you keep it here, you're going to put that stress here. And I've seen a whole lot of us, black men, actually die with more having heart attacks, strokes, because we're dealing with a whole lot of mental issues that we're not letting go.
Picture a life that's full of tragedy, though some would say that that ain't me. Good home, good folks, a good kid with good jokes, though something that's inside of me maybe react so violently. Y'all know them silent ones. Silently, people would be like, why would he up and do that? But I knew that. That angel rep, I blew that. I didn't even want to pursue that. Instead, I pursued them blue caps, faking like I had a gun a day to stun away. Mama yelled, Papa fake. No wonder he thought that nobody wanted face. Rejected in 100 ways, 100 days to wonder. A. If tears are like a vitamin, I'm working on my one a days. Threatened I will run away. So I came back. My folks didn't even know I was gone though. Inside, the tears falling. Outside, I'm laughing at Gonzo. The pain just remained in my brain till I was gone. Blown, stained by the drama, yet still wondering if my mama and my papa even think I'm great. Turning to my grandmama and asking why her people hate me. And I've been knowing the pain, I've been knowing the pain, I've been knowing the pain between you and me. That's how it's been usually. But welcome to the funeral, dog. I'm giving pain's eulogy. I've been knowing the pain, I've been knowing the pain, I've been knowing the pain between you and me. That's how it's been usually. But welcome to the funeral, dog. I'm giving pain's eulogy. Despite the fact that high school came and all of these changes occurred, y'all know the Jordans, no more Mortons, DDTP emerged. I heard you're dark and ugly, your sister light, so we hanging with her. Y'all want to know why my childhood really became such a blur, Slim? I heard slur after slur, murmurs that came to burr. Cold shoulder for being a low soldier, so shorter than everyone, so authoritative. A way I could get in my own corner, my own quarters. Emotionally, my road closure. Signs went up, so no exposure. No one knows of the suicide or the homicide, the inner thoughts that were locked inside, the botched up pride that notched up my reality to die. In order to indoor what was outdoors, I had to outdoor what was indoors. Who knew what God had in store? That's what I picked up a pen for. The hurt and pain, the dirt and strain. I wrote it down and made it plain. He broke me down and then he reigned. He turned around and made it gain. So I turned around and gave him blame. Because God forbid that I should turn around and make it vain. Life could have been in my vein, could have disappeared like David Blaine. God, we go through so much pain, but still through all my pain, you reign. Between you and me, that's how it's been usually. So welcome to the funeral, dog. I'm giving pain's eulogy. I've been knowing the pain. I've been knowing the pain. I've been knowing the pain. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So even when the lights go down, I see the sun. And when the hurt made me run, what he has done is brought new life. Lord, he gave me new life. So even when the time goes by, still it will be you and I have new life. He gave me new life. So pain, this is your eulogy. Yes, my occupation as a taste tester takes pressure off of me as I make steps daily just to taste death. But I know I'ma taste rest. So to anybody listening, whether you had to take tests given out by some fake mess like your mama didn't, papa didn't, no one seemed to love you, rejected. Well, it's been detected by the Father up above you. Where affirmation was lacking, God had your back in. So in his arms you can back in, because back in his presence there is no absence. He'll never leave us. See, Jesus happens to back him. He'll give us his spirit. In fact, he tacked it back on the package. So where my parents lacked, God said he'll carry me back. I'm killing the old me, homie. See, it's buried in black. Bump everything that they said. Bump everything that they didn't. Bump if they didn't admit it, forget it. Tell it good riddance. Forgive them. Give them admittance to be redeemed by your love. Just like Jesus has done. The same he's given to us. Cause I've been knowing the pain. I've been knowing the pain. I've been knowing the pain between you and me. That's how it's been usually. But welcome to the funeral, dog. I'm giving Pain's eulogy.
That's how you start off a summit right there. Thank you in your face for killing that, bruh. Good morning. Good morning. Peace and blessings to you all. Welcome to the Hope Battalion Men's Mental Health Shape Up. I am so excited. I'm glad that y'all are here. My name is Reverend Aaron Martin, and I am the co-leader of the men's ministry at Community of Hope AME Church. Shout out to the other leader, Reverend Bruce Herbert. What's up, bro? Shout out to all the Hope Battalion. That's what we call our ministry. Shout out to all the brothers who are listening right now. What's up, fellas? I'm glad y'all are here. Listen, this is Mental Health Month, and we wanted to do something to address that because we know how important that is. But listen, I want to make this clear. This is not about just our ministry. It's not about just our church. It's not a church thing. It's a get your mind right thing. So for the time that we have together, we're going to try and get to the bottom of everything that's really going on in our mind and make sense of all our experiences. So what's on the agenda today? So look, this is what we did. This is kind of cool. All right, so we paired up average brothers like you and I with down-to-earth black male therapists, right? Who they just wanted to keep it real with us. And the results were so powerful and impactful, man. You're going to hear some real and honest conversations about mental health, followed by some solutions that you can start actually working on today. So also you're going to hear from a brother who's dedicated all his energy into using technology to identify and monitor anxiety. How about that? And he's going to tell us all about his invention. And if that wasn't enough, we have our own DC's own DJ Dirty Rico, who's going to sit down with our own pastor, Pastor Reverend Tony Lee, and have a heartfelt conversation about brotherhood and accountability and how that relates to mental health. And before we close out, we want to make sure that you leave with all the resources and support that you may need and be able to take the next steps if necessary. All right. So let's get started. Okay. We're going to dive right into this. Before we do though, listen, it's not just going to be me here just talking to y'all. This is interactive. So I need for y'all to, I need some feedback. Okay. So we're going to start this thing off with a question. All right. It's a serious question, but I think it's very needed. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to take the time to answer this question. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to text Hope Check 7741. You're going to text Hope Check to 77411. You go to your phones, type in Hope Check 77411. All right, to answer this question. It's a difficult question, but I think it doesn't have really good answers, really, but it's important to answer. How many black men do you think die from suicide daily? I'll repeat the question. How many black men die from suicide daily? Is it A, 1 to 3? Is it B, 4 to 3? Or is it C, 7 to 8? How many men die from suicide daily? 1 to 3, 4 to 3, or 7 to 8? Okay. All right, I see. All right, I see you guys flip-flopping from 1 to 3 to 4 to 3. I get it. Okay. Just take a chance. All right. All right. So the answer is, did y'all get a chance? Yeah. So the answer is 7 to 8. 7 to 8 black men die daily from depression. Well, we got to know the numbers, y'all. See, off the bat, y'all can see how important this topic is. I mean, We want to make it lighthearted, but we also want to be serious, right? So, all right, so we're getting ready to go to the barbershop, right? Fellas, y'all know how it is when we go to the barbershop, right? You can hear almost any conversation. Somebody might come in there selling some Jordans or some Gordons. Somebody might be ordering takeout, right? Somebody might be getting joned on or whatever. But one thing that we can always count on in the barbershop is they keep it 100, right? They keep it a stack. That's why we shot the conversation there, because we want to keep it real as possible today. All right, so y'all ready? Y'all ready to ride out to the barbershop? All right, we're about to dive in. All right, let's go to this first conversation at the barbershop. Okay, so let's talk about something that affects us all. Anger. Controlling your anger. Or lack of control of your anger. Where are y'all with that? Like how does that fit into your daily routine? Are you angry a lot? You find yourself getting to the point of anger a lot, or is it just once in a while, or it's just depend on the situation? Where are you guys with? How you feel about anger?
I think for me, I'm good with anger now. At different moments of life, anger was a big issue. Probably youth and maybe like in college age, maybe 20s, it was a bad thing just because I didn't know how to control anger. I would hold things in, so by the time something got me hot, I let it go, be like everything's fine, we'll just brush it off. But then when it hit, it was out of my control at that point. I almost had blackouts and would just snap. Now,
Snap. When you say snap,
so like sometimes
I mean, without getting too personal.
I don't mind. Like even with the snapping, it would be you and I could be having a conversation, we friends, right? So we up there having a good conversation and you may say something I just don't like. That has really nothing to do with you. But because of what you said has hurt me, that might be the 1,000th thing that has pissed me off over the course of time. So now I'm just like, who you talking to? And the energy is now shifted. Now the energy is shifted. Your energy is shifted because of what I've brought to the table. Now I'm angry because I see you angry. So now I just have lost it. And I don't even see you anymore. I see every problem. I might even see like my father. That's how bad it might get, to the point where it's so bad or it used to be so bad that I would see faces, and whoever was irking me that day, that's whose face I saw. So that's what I meant by, for me, blacking out would be, it wouldn't be the issue that's making me mad. It wouldn't be the person. It could be 20 other things. It could be something from 5 years ago. But it just hit me, that emotion hit me, and it's like, I can't control it. That emotion.
You call it what it is. That's what anger actually is. It's an emotion. So a lot of times we'll see someone and we'll see an emotion out of them. We'll say they look angry. It could be that they're sad. It could be that they're embarrassed. It could be that a whole host of things. But that's essentially what it is an emotion. I think the sad thing about it is that at least in our community, individuals, at least for Black males, we'll be in the store, we'll be interacting with our family, anything can be happening, and people will give us a label of "you look angry." Mm-hmm. No, you could be just sad. You could be embarrassed. And a whole host of things could be going on. But we don't give it the correct label. We just see it as anger, and that can set off a whole host of other things behind it if we call it not what it is. So.
Mm-hmm. Now that's real, because like I started to notice that a lot of times my other emotions would be expressed with me. And now that I think about it, I think it's more like the not, like, of course, like anger itself as an emotion definitely with that. But I think even not expressing some of those other emotions, right, turn into anger. Like really, like, for having not expressed sadness or grief or whatever.
I don't like the way I feel. Like for me personally, I can't to 10. Because I've been to 10 maybe once or twice in my life. There's no control at 10. So I really gotta just, I guess it's suppress. Not give me 10 because I don't like myself at 10. I see myself like I have out of body experiences of anger when it gets to that. It doesn't happen a lot, but I do feel myself when it gets to that out of control spot. I'm like, I gotta jump on this to make sure I'm walking away. Especially when I was younger, like I'm walking away. I time out. You say something to me, and those who know me well, if press those buttons, I gotta go because I feel like I'm straight, like it's gonna get physical, you know. Especially like if it's if it's something that's dear to me, something I don't care about, and maybe, but if it's something that's dear to me, and I feel like it affects me that way, yeah.
Anger is an emotion that looks for a topic. At the end of the day, it looks for something to basically extend itself on or to work out that anger on. So therefore, a lot of times it is used, obviously, in sports. So, you use that anger to dunk on somebody, or use that anger to blow through the line or something else like that.
I love your sports analogy.
You can tell that I was horrible in sports, so that's why I'm just reliving it now, so people think that I was like, they're like, oh, he was a baller. I was a bench rider. So the thing is this, though, is that anger a lot of times comes from what we call that fight or flight response. That when you see a threat, perceive a threat, then that anger comes up sometimes as a response to then try to deal with it. The problem is that sometimes we deal with emotional threats that make us angry. So you in an argument with somebody, it's not a physical space, but your body prepares for a physical encounter. So then afterwards, you still got all that energy. And so I think whether it's a coloring book, whatever it is, you do have to do something to release that energy, because you're right. All of those chemicals have released in your body that basically want to do something. And if they don't do anything, a lot of times what can happen is you'll turn it back on yourself. So you'll see people would have ulcers and stuff like that. And some of it literally comes from anger. Having anger that in some cases they have held on to for years and decades. Mad at people that's dead. My dad chumped me before he died. I should have cussed him out. I should have done this. And because that never happened, and because they felt like they never had that opportunity and they never cut that loop, then they're still mad at somebody that's in the ground, and they actually are going to go to the ground earlier themselves because of something that was done to them by somebody that's no longer there.
Sometimes, like, I often wonder, like, what's the best way to not be angered by certain things anymore?
To piggyback on that, where I answer that question is, I'm just thinking of, I can be angry every day. Being a black man in America, I can be angry at it's a constant state of anger if you allow yourself to be. So, piggyback on his question, like, what do you do to kind of suppress or deal with that anger? I know we talked about the whole anxiety thing and that, and having those methods of dealing with that. But I could really be, if I'm a black man, I could be angry every day.
You could. I think part of that key is identifying what it really is. All right. So if it's you're embarrassed, then you're embarrassed and deal with the embarrassment. If it's you're angry or pissed off at something, or something bothered you in such a way that it just got underneath your skin, deal with what it is. Don't lump it all together. All right. We talked about sort of upfront what anger is. It's just think about it in terms of an emotion. What is that emotion that's tied to what we call anger, and deal with that particular emotion. It could be that you're embarrassed. Just deal with embarrassment, whatever it is. Somebody may have said something to you. Now you feel embarrassed. They called you out on something that you did. You ain't want nobody to see it. You didn't want nobody to know about it. Now they know. So now you're angry. So deal with whatever that emotion is. That's part of the best ways you can sort of identify it and deal with it.
Yeah, taking control of that. Like in therapy, I learned that it's everything's still a choice at the end of the day. Like I have the choice to be angry or I can have a choice to be happy. I can ignore small things if I choose to. It's what I decide to allow to consume me or not. So if I'm that angry, when I think back on my younger self, it's just because I didn't have any control and I didn't know, and I was probably hurt about something else and just didn't know how to control it. And I might have just been comfortable in that emotion because anger was an emotion that I was used to presenting and people were used to maybe giving me a reaction that I was looking for at that time. Whatever that reaction was, it could have just been attention. So I think it's, also understanding we do have control over, the one thing we have control over is our choices. So if we want to not be so angry, we got to figure out ways to take some ownership back of these things. Like our emotions is the one thing we can control. At least for me. I don't know about you.
No, just real quick. I think two things. One is gratitude helps. So it's like being angry that the air conditioning goes out of your car as you head into your job. And you can be upset and focus on the fact that the air conditioner's gone out and it's hot. But at the same point, you also can focus on, I got a car. I'm not walking. I can focus on the fact I'm going to a job. I'm not going to the morgue. I'm not going somewhere else. So sometimes where the focus is, a lot of times anger will have you focus on the one thing that makes you upset and actually magnify it to the point where now you have to do something about it. That's why you get that way there. The other thing is this, and I think if we're going to be real, we got to be real, is I'm thankful for what y'all have said about not letting you don't like the way anger feels and everything else like that. At times I have. Because the thing is that anger does give a sense of, even though it's false, it gives a sense of power. So if somebody's not listening to me and I say, man, y'all gonna listen, then it is that attention. And then if you get to the point of doing that, you cheating, really, you kind of cutting corners. But we have to be honest, especially when we're talking to men, is that anger at times has seemingly produced a result. And so then therefore we have to also give them tools to get to that result in a better way that doesn't damage. The only problem is that anger gets that result, but through domination or damage. And whenever you dominate and damage, then people eventually gonna come back and get we can go through every beef we got, rap beef, everything else like that. And you look at it, it was always a case of coming back. So that's the thing in terms of really recognizing that anger, even if it gets you where you want to go, is not the best way to do it.
What you said was powerful because you said change your focus, but what if you say I heard perspective, and that makes all the sense. Perspective. Something makes you angry, take a step back, get a broader perspective. I like that.
I think it's also important that we pay attention to what we're teaching. Because I'll give you a quick example. I saw a family and they brought a young boy to me and they said the child experiences issues around anger. All right. Throwing things, cursing, just doing whatever he wants to do. And so I just quickly moved the child out the way and I did some work with the parents. And they were angry with me, like, why are you not seeing my child? I said, because he learned that from you. Wow. That's why I'm not seeing him. And in order for him to do something different, he needs to see you do something different. So we need to be very careful what we're teaching, not, our children and other family members. So if we do something with how we feel, with our emotions, if we pay more attention to them, if we allow ourselves to experience them and not push them down in the corner and pretend they ain't happening, like we do at funerals. We do at funerals, everybody get together. We go up to the family that's, bereaved, and then we'll say to them, I'm sorry for your loss. I hope you feel better. It's not for the family that's sitting there. It's for us because we're trying to feel different than the way we really feel. And so we struggle with that. And so I always tell people that if you want to see something different in your family, you've got to do something different, which means that the work you're doing today is not for your children today or your spouse today. It's actually for your grandchildren. You get that? So do the work for your grandchildren because you're teaching your child what to do so they can do better with your grandchildren.
How many of y'all can relate to that? I mean, I can identify with it because, you know, anger has always been something that's challenged me throughout my life. And I know, brothers, that you're like me, we probably just didn't identify with it. We kept it inside. We didn't know how to express ourselves. We didn't know what to really do with those emotions that we had, because we weren't taught, like they said, we weren't really taught to express ourselves, especially to other brothers, other men. Come on, we weren't able to do that growing up. So what do? We hold it all in. But I love this because it talks about just being able to express yourself and understand your body, understand what's happening to you, understand it from a historical perspective. This stuff just didn't happen to you, but it's handed down to you because all the societal issues. It's good to understand your body and understand where this anger comes from. But I love it so much. I think we're just going to hop back into another video. Let's go right back to the barbershop. After that, we're going to bring our first guest. I'll tease it out. I won't tell you who's coming next. But after we come back from this barbershop scene, we have a special guest. So let's just jump right back into the barbershop scene. All right. So I know we're in the barbershop and everybody relaxed, feeling good. You know, that's what we do in the barbershop. I want y'all to keep it a stack. I want y'all to keep it. If we're not gonna keep it real, then I don't even want to have this conversation. So we all agree. It's not a court of law, but can we do a thumbs up that everybody's gonna keep it real? So we can't have this conversation unless we all keep it real, right?
Right.
Yeah. I now start to think about like how difficult it must have been. Like I'm thinking about the NBA and the bubble. Being in the bubble, and then you hear all this stuff about, you know, brothers don't want to be in, trying to sneak out, trying to sneak people in. You know, you hear all the Paul George stories. And it has to stem from a certain place, and it's just I don't know. It's just something that I always thought that I wasn't alone with. You know?
No, I definitely don't think you're. You brought up it's like a hamstring. So, you know, it's a case of you playing and you're going through and you feel it something, but you keep playing anyhow. One of the things that specifically, you know, as black men, we can be all right. I'm all right. I'm good. You all right? I'm good. You know, you get hit by a car. I'm good. You know, you lost your job. I'm good. You know, your girl left you. I'm good. So the thing is this is that, you know, everybody like, I'm good. And the thing is this is that you're good, but you're human. You're human. You're a good human. So the thing is this is that you're going to have moments of overload. And really that's what anxiety is. It's like when you're dealing with a situation or something, and then those emotions just overload you. That's why sometimes it comes out in tears, sometimes, you know, panic attack, you can't breathe. Because we want to feel like we have control of something. And the moment you feel out of control, that's like the worst feeling in the world. That's like getting that text, you know, hey, we need to talk. You like, that's anxiety right there. That's the first time most men deal with anxiety. So you get that text. You're like, what is that? What does that mean? So the unknown. And so
I think it's yours. I think the baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the thing is this is that if you look at it, then you're dealing with this anxiety, but you're telling yourself, I'm good. So you lying to yourself. So really, you got even conflict within yourself. And so one of the things is just to accept the fact that part of being human means that I'm not always good. And you gotta accept that.
Yeah. And well, since we have like mental health professionals here, like we like define anxiety, but sometimes I don't know when it is anxiety too, right? Because I think generally it's so funny. So when I was I'll never forget, in 4th grade, I had a teacher who used to always tell me, Evan, control your exuberance, right? And so like now as I think about that,
that's a different topic. That's a different subject. That sounds like something else.
No.
It but to your point, I mean, as a mental health professional, I see it a lot with black males. As soon as they're not sitting still, as soon as they're not paying attention,
they must have a problem, and we need to give them a label, we need to give them a diagnosis, and on to the way as it goes. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, well, as it relates to anxiety, like sometimes I don't, well, I say that to say like I am exuberant at times. And so sometimes I'm just kind of like on 100 anyway. And that whole line of like control your exuberance or your expressiveness, sometimes I don't know. I feel like, oh, I'm just being exuberant. It's not anxiety necessarily. You know what I mean? Because when I do find myself in those moments where I am slowing down and like kind of being reflective, like journal, stuff like that. Oftentimes I don't do that until I'm at the point where it's overwhelming. But when I look back, I'm like, oh, that probably was a sign that maybe it was anxiety inducing or something like that.
Good. So what's the definition?
Well, I would say this is that because if you go to the definition of anxiety, we can give you like 10 of them, to be honest with you. You know, it's like the definition of being Pope. You know, I mean, it's a whole bunch of different definitions. The one thing I will say though is anxiety normally is either you feel a sense of uncertainty, you feel a sense of powerlessness, and you feel, or in some cases, a sense of dread for something that is going to happen. So a lot of times anxiety is not in the, even though you're feeling it in the moment, it's about what's about to happen. So what you just mentioned in terms of the presentation, in the moment of doing it, your dread or your uncertainty is, am I going to do this well? Am I going to, be able to keep my job? All of that type of stuff. So anxiety normally projects you into the future. Normally anxiety doesn't take you to the past. So that's normally pain or trauma and things like that come up from the past. But if you look at it, anxiety almost always looks to the future in terms of what that looks like. So if I'm walking down the street and see Tyson and I owe him money, then that's anxiety, But I will say this is that you can manage anxiety, one, by acknowledging it, but then two, by then calming it down. So just like you mentioned about your presentation, okay, I've done this presentation many times before. And one of the things that anxiety does, it puts us into that fight or flight response where you want to do something. One of the best ways to get out of it is to change your breathing. It's to a lot of times we do call deep breathing or real slow breathing, where you just kind of take a moment just to breathe regularly. That helps a lot to be able to bring your anxiety down. Now, realizing too, every once in a while, anxiety is helpful. I had to make a presentation at a major university. I was feeling anxiety, and I decided to use some of it to keep me sharp, to keep me on edge, so that I could be able to really be just really smooth for a limited period of time.
Interesting.
As soon as it was over, though, I said, all right, let me check. Let me pull it back. So the thing is this, is that anxiety is part of just natural human function. And having anxiety is normal. It's just not letting it get to the point where it then takes over your life. And that's where it becomes a challenge.
That's the end. Learning to take over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that before COVID, I had anxiety for different things, growing up. But when COVID hit, the anxiety probably was on 1,000 because our company was doing layoffs in the private sector, and we're in the travel industry. So I mean, they laid off maybe 45% of the company as soon as the PPP loan was over, like the day of. So everybody knew these days were coming. So the anxiety of it was ridiculous. But to your point, I mean, I had to learn how to like take each day differently. A little bit more. The next day, I was like, okay, it's out of my control. I can't really worry about it. Let me find some faith. Let me read. Let me meditate. Do some yoga. Play some video games. Whatever it was, I needed to do something to get my mind off of that big problem. So, I mean, that's my defense mechanism. But like, are there other tools? I know the breathing, but sometimes when you are having anxiety, it's hard to think of your steps to bring you back down. Like, so when it's okay, I'm feeling that level, and now I'm starting to sweat. I'm starting to breathe a little funny. I can't think to breathe. I can't think to do anything. So what would be maybe some steps when you get to that point? Yeah. Like I might not do it because it's been a long time of practice. But if somebody else was just figuring it out, like what do you tell them when they're like, at that point of almost feeling like they're about to break down because they don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes. But, in our community, first we're caught with anxiety related to ignore it, and or find that drink or that drug to deal with. So when you're dealing with someone, you're trying to get them to do something different. You got to educate them so that they're comfortable with where they are. And then after they're comfortable with where they are, then perhaps you can get them to do something different. There's some folks I see that breathing works for them perfectly. They can do that in managing things in the moment. But there's others where it's so pervasive and it's so consuming for them, their family members, and all the relationships that they have, that I would refer them for medication. And as soon as I say the word med, they're medication. So that, and because we know most of those are sort of that combination of work. But overall, I would say for most folks, it's just sort of getting them comfortable. At least in our community, that this is what you're dealing with. This is how you feel. Okay, so now let's give you some tools so you can do something different, so you can manage it better.
And that's the thing about, especially with Black men. Like, you have tools, but are you going to use those tools? Yeah. Like, even when you were saying, like, to breathe, and like, am I gonna do that? Like, am I gonna take the? I guess that's part of that bravado that I'm gonna take care of myself, or I'm doing myself. Because we can give you the tools all you want to, all you need, but are we gonna actually use them? That's probably it's a question we need to ask ourselves.
But that is interesting about that, because I work with athletes often as well, and one of the things is all of them, especially like in basketball, but even in other sports, they'll have what they call routine. So specifically, they're going to shoot a free throw. Now, this is the thing. They're going to shoot that free throw, the game tied, the 1 second left on the clock. They got a routine. And you'll see it. You look at a movie or something else like that, but in real life, you'll see them take 2 deep breaths, bounce the ball twice. That is a way of dealing with anxiety. So we see it all the time. As crazy as it may sound, LeBron James throwing up the chalk, everything else like that. The shimmy that, Curry would do. The thing is, all of those are actual physical ways of dealing with it. We don't look at it that way because we've just been trained to look at it differently. One of the things that does for me is that sometimes if I'm feeling anxious, I'll think of whatever my favorite song is and hum it to myself. I might, tap the beat. Not always, depending on what the song is. But I might tap my leg, something like that. But something that allows me to have a measure of control of something, and then once I have it from there, then I extend it to the rest of myself. But we see it so often with people. You even see it before people get ready to fight. When they get ready to knock up and stuff like that, you'll see them go through a little, all into this, like,
that's true.
That is, so they train themselves to do that. So if you can do all of those things, then you'll do it before you see somebody about to holler at a girl. They'll get, and they get themselves right. But what are they actually doing? They are actually dealing with their anxiety about to deal with possible rejection. So my thing is that we do it. We just got to shift it and do it in more places than where we have socially made it acceptable, specifically for Black men.
That makes a whole lot of sense. That to do it in those, to make it acceptable.
Right. So now when I feel that way going into an interview, remember that same stuff. Remember the same stuff that got me to do all these other types of things that handle those anxious situations. Because those are anxious situations too, that I can use some of those same things in this space. And even if it's not the same thing, I can do something. And I think that's what it is. Anxiety, when you start feeling that you've lost control, being able to take control of something, then that starts that process of pulling it back.
Told y'all we were going to keep it real in here, right? Isn't that what we do in the barbershop? That I felt like that was just so insightful. I felt like that was so needed. And so I hope you're getting what you need to get out of this, fellas, because, I mean, like I said before, we have to be able to express ourselves. So I'm about to bring out our first guest, and you might want to pull out your notes on the note function on your phone, or get out a piece of paper or something, because he's going to provide us with a way of dealing with anxiety. So let me introduce my first guest here. If you watch Sunday Morning Hope, then he's not a stranger to you. He's Pastor Vernon Ware. Vernon has received his Master of Science degree in pastoral clinical counseling from Loyola University. He specializes in couples counseling and adults dealing with anxiety, depression, and stress management, and challenge interpersonal functioning. Reverend Ware also serves as the senior pastor of Pilgrim AME Church in Northeast Washington, D.C. And he will always have a special place in my heart because he married my wife and I. So, gentlemen, I want to introduce to you Pastor Vernon Ware. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing good. How about yourself today? All right. Well, I'm just glad to be here. I know that y'all already heard the clip, so I'm going to jump right on in. I'm going to be talking about anxiety. I'm going to be talking about really just those aspects of anxiety that all of us deal with. And so sometimes persons may wonder, okay, what is anxiety? What is anxiety? What is it that we deal with when we talk about anxiety? Anxiety is really just that feeling of whether it's worry, nervousness, an unease, or even could be worse in terms of dread about something that you feel is going to happen in the future, and you feel that it's negative. So it could be something as simple as literally just something like you could be looking at it in terms of going for a job interview. And then going for that job interview, it's a case where you might be feeling that, okay, I'm not sure how I'm going to do on this job interview. But then what anxiety will say is not only am I not sure what I'm going to do, I feel like I'm going to do badly. And because I feel like I'm going to do badly, I keep going down that road. I keep going down those thoughts. And then that ends up adding to my anxiety, adding to my stress, and making it worse. And so therefore, that is something that we look at. So we deal with anxiety all the time, the anxiety of getting to work on time. Lord knows the anxiety that we've had to deal with in terms of COVID. But anxiety always looks to the future. Anxiety is always something that is ahead of us. We don't feel anxiety about something that's already happened. We may feel regret, we may feel disappointment, but anxiety is always in front of us. And while that is challenging, is the fact that because it is in front of us, it is something that we don't know what it's going to be. So you could think anything. It could be something as simple as just going to, have a date, going out. I don't know what it's going to be like. So therefore, I could have in my mind all kinds of possibilities, and I won't know which one is true until it actually happens. And so anxiety, some of it is really going to be kind of taking control of our thoughts, and really what anxiety can be heightened by, because sometimes there are things that are just going to make us anxious. Yeah, if I'm looking for a new job, I am going to be anxious a little bit. If I am going on a date, I am going to be anxious. If I'm having to have a conversation with a co-parent, I am going to be anxious because I know what the stakes are. I know how it might be. And so it could be a student being able to deal with class. All of those can provide anxiety. You can have anxiety when you look at your bank account and really looking at, okay, what is it that I have? Thinking of all the bills, how am I going to pay them? But one of the first things we want to do is to be able to take control of our thoughts. When persons say all the time, how do I deal with anxiety? One of the best ways to deal with anxiety, one of the first ways to deal with anxiety is to be able to slow your thoughts down. Many times our thoughts can run off to the races, and they normally don't run to a good space. They normally run to a space that is bad, a space of what if this goes wrong, a space of not what if it goes wrong, what if it goes horribly wrong. And the thing is, this is that most times in our life, we haven't had that. And even if you have had that, even if you have had that experience, then part of what you want to do is to say that, okay, I do believe that this experience is going to be different. There's going to be something different that I see, something different that I do that will give me a different outcome. But in other cases, sometimes we have unrealistic expectations. One of the things that I sometimes do kind of push back on a little bit is the whole meme thing. Everybody loves memes, and we love to go on to Instagram or Facebook or wherever, and they'll have like those 4 little words or those 3 sentences that now all of a sudden are supposed to, boss people only make boss moves and all this other stuff. I always win. That's all I do. Well, no, you don't. Nobody always wins. Nobody is always making boss moves. Nobody is grinding all the time and not doing that successfully, at least. And so, therefore, sometimes we can put unrealistic expectations on ourselves. Part of success is going to be failure. Part of failure is part of life. There's no way around it. So everything is not going to work exactly the way that it should. And so that is one of the things that we really want to be able to really honestly be able to take control of, is some of the thoughts that we have. And sometimes people can give you unrealistic thoughts. People will tell you what you should do in certain situations, and that adds anxiety. You were just trying to do this little piece here, but now they're trying to blow it up, trying to make it bigger, saying what they would do, and they're not in your shoes. So one of the things is that to deal with anxiety is to be kind to yourself, to make sure that you are being kind to yourself in terms of what we would call our self-talk, our internal dialogue. That internal dialogue is huge, because if you are putting pressure on yourself, then you are taking what can already be an anxiety producing situation and then making it best. And so therefore, you got to make sure that you limit that. You got to make sure that you limit that so that it doesn't add to the anxiety that you naturally would have. But there's some other things that we can do that you can be able to deal with in terms of handling your anxiety. One of the things is actually being able to sleep. So being able to sleep is actually something that is incredibly helpful, because many times when we sleep, our body starts to reset. Now, yeah, you may say, okay, well, I have trouble going to sleep. Well, yeah, part of the reason you have trouble going to sleep is that you still might be on your phone, that you still may be binging something on Netflix or Hulu or all of those different things. And so with that being the case, then we need sleep. Sleep is something that allows your brain many times to reset. And so it allows it to slow down some of that racing. If you don't do that, then that becomes a challenge. So even if you are having trouble going to sleep, try to look at least 30 minutes before you go into sleep to be able to shut down kind of all your social media, shut down all your texting, everything else like that, turn off the TV and just chill out. That helps a lot in terms of hoping to have you go to sleep earlier and quicker. Secondly, one of the things that we can do is that we move more. So I want you to sleep more, but also want you to move more. A lot of times anxiety, because it is a stress also producing thing, it is something that builds up chemicals in us. And so therefore, a lot of times to be able to deal with those, you need to do something. So whether you're moving in terms of going to the gym, well, Rev, I can't go to the gym right now. Rev, I can't do that right now. So then therefore, sometimes what it looks like is that it actually looks like they're not going to the gym, but it may be you just dancing, turn it on your favorite song. And then for 5 minutes, you are releasing stress. You are reducing anxiety, but you have to have something physical to be able to help you to deal with that. Another thing is eating right. One of the things that anxiety can do is that it can make us have nervous energy. And then we do things with that. So we might just find ourselves eating potato chip after potato chip, cookie after cookie. Yeah, I know somebody out there probably eating grape after grape, but most people not doing that. And so therefore the thing is that it is going to be something where we do have to watch what we put inside of us, because let's say you put in a whole bunch of sugary food. Well, what's that going to do is that increases just your energy level and now increases that amount of you that now is moving forward into increasing your anxiety, because now your brain's moving even faster. You done hyped it up to a certain extent. So being able to watch that. Almost last but not least is that limit the liquor. Yeah, I said it. I know it's a church, but come on now. I know Jesus ain't the only one turn water to wine. So therefore, limit the liquor. limit what, because many times when we feel anxiety, we say, okay, I just need something to take the edge off, or I need just to get me something to get right. You know, it might not be liquor, it might be something else, you know, whatever it is. This isn't a judgment zone, but this is just letting you know that that is, to a certain extent, it really doesn't help. It deadens you to it, it numbs you, but it really doesn't help with the actual source of your anxiety. So what's going to happen is, over time, your body is going to need more and more of whatever you're doing to deal with that anxiety. So if it is that goose that's gray, if it is something else, you know, the thing is this: at the end of the day, then it is going to be something that you're going to need more and more of it, and then that can produce other habits that unfortunately can then definitely be almost worse than your anxiety. And then the last thing I really would say is sometimes having a routine. We have routines for many different things. We have things that we sometimes can do to help us. So persons even deal with, like, whether it's cleaning, whether it's dealing with other sorts of things that help them to be able to kind of get their mind right. Part of what anxiety does is it makes you feel that you don't have control. It makes you feel that you've lost control. And because you've lost that control, then you're going to go ahead and have horrible things that happens. So one of the things that I would say is this, is the fact that when you are dealing with that, then it's a case that you are able to now have that routine, have control of something. So even if it's just control of you, then that makes a difference. So that's why sometimes persons will say making their bed I ain't one of them people, but making them bed every day is something, because at least they know they can control that. They might not be able to control everything else, but even bed making actually becomes something that for some persons can actually help them with their anxiety. And then I just want to say, the last but not least, is that it may not be necessarily a clinical term, but I believe for real, being able to connect to our faith, being able to pass some of those anxieties, some of those cares, some of those worries, to be able to pray to God about, to express them to him. And I believe that not only with the other things can he move through those, but sometimes it's giving it to him is also a way to help with our anxiety as well. So hopefully I gave you some tips that you can use with dealing with the anxiety that we all have. And with that being said, Brother Aaron, come on, holla at me.
That's good, man. I feel like, were you talking to anybody else but me? I feel like you came down my block and set up shop right in front of my house, man. I feel like, is anybody else getting this but me? I mean,
you set the stage, man.
So this is what I heard. I heard anxiety is something that's ahead of us,
yes,
and not behind us. I heard that's somebody told me anxiety is a way of making us doubt ourselves or feeling a certain way about ourselves. So that kind of hit me in my heart too. And then you said, but we have the power. We have the power to control it. So that's what I want those of us who are listening to this to understand, that we do have the power to take control of this. While all the steps that you said with the sleeping and the moving around, I'm a move. That's a new one for me. Move around. I'm gonna find some song. Excuse me, Pastor. It may not be the holiest of songs, but if I need to move around.
Hey, we know that David danced. We don't know if
there you go. You go.
I don't think that was the 23rd song he was dancing to. But let me jump in real quick and say this. The other thing is that we know that we have some anxiety producing people in our lives. Anxiety producing people, some apps we don't. So just like you look on your phone, you got some apps that you don't need, some apps that don't work for you. So some of us got some apps, I ain't talking about you, but some of us got some apps, some anxiety producing people that, I hate to say this, we do need to delete. We do need to take them off of, in some cases, just take them out of rotation. That if we can just change that in some cases, because sometimes you find, and then that person talked to you, and then now you got anxiety when you was actually chill before.
Right.
So if you find that some of your relationships always flow in that way, then either one, you need to change how that relationship functions by telling the person, look, I don't need all that extra smoke. I just need you to be able to support me and kind of roll from there. Or then you need to actually change the relationship, possibly either by limiting it or by removing it altogether.
Awesome. Brothers, just
Thank
remember,
you.
we have the power to control it. We have the power to control it. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you, Pastor, for showing up today, man. That was incredibly insightful. That was very helpful. Listen, if you want to get in contact with Pastor Ware, his information will be provided, but you got to hang on to the end of the summit, and you'll receive some contact information with all the presenters today, along with other resources and support. All right. So now it is time for our second question. I told you this is going to be interactive, right? We already said that I'm not going to be talking all day. We got folks here that want to talk to you, and I want to talk to you too. And this is how you can respond to me by answering this second question. What you can do is you go back to use your phone and text hope check to 77411. Hope check to 77411. Here's another kind of interesting question that, let's see if you can get the answer to. Here's the question. The physical and mental problems from depression can seep into which of the following? Is it A, home and work? Is it B, relationship with friends and family? Is it C, the community? Or is it D, all of the above? The physical and mental problems from depression can seep into which of the following? Home and work, relationships with friends and family, the community, or all of the above? Okay, I see you're saying friends and family. I see the community, seeing all of the above. Okay. All right, so let's see what the answer is. So the answer is all of the above. Yeah, depression can affect all areas of life. I mean, I'm sure if you've ever been in that space like I have, I mean, all those areas were affected. All right. So now it's time. We're going to dive back into the barbershop. And look, guys, we can't avoid these topics anymore. That's what we're doing today. We got to meet them head on. We got to go in and try to uncover these things so we can get better. All right. So now we're just going to go back into that barbershop and look at another scene in the barbershop. Let's do that right now. All right, so we're gonna dig a little deeper on this one. All right, this is probably a topic that, as Black men, we probably don't like to address as much, but depression. Even me saying the word depression has this angst over me, has these feelings over me. I've gone through it once or twice in my life, and the depth that it takes me emotionally, physically, mentally as well is probably the reason why we don't like to talk about it, especially amongst each other. But just have you had experiences in depression or feeling depressed or been that level of depression before? Anybody?
I definitely have. And I was telling Jamal earlier, it's crazy. So every now and then, like now, I'll like do something or I'll feel something like, I don't say emotionally, but like, I'm like, wow, it's been a while since I felt like that. And when I think back, usually it's all back to a certain like time, right? So like, some of you already know a lot of like my personal story and journey and stuff, but like a lot of stuff just kind of, I felt like it happened back to back that I think took me to a deep cycle of depression. My dad and uncles passed away. It was pretty dramatic. Then after that, I got in like this trouble at school, and then I ended up getting in an accident. Someone died, and I went to prison, and it was like a period of years where it it was like back to back to back something. And so I learned how to cope. You know what I mean? How to like still present as, you know, I guess happy or get stuff done. I was super productive, you know, because again, like the way I deal with stuff, I keep moving, I keep climbing, achieving. And but now being in a place where I've started doing intentional work, right? Like I journal more, I therapist, I meditate, you know, perspective, right? I've changed a lot of my perspectives, and now I feel myself kind of coming back to myself, so to speak. And then when I think about the last time I felt like this, like I guess whole, you can say it's been that long. And so it's kind of mind blowing, really. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, just being in that hole, I started thinking about Get Out in a sunken place. You know what I mean? And it's just being in that place of not knowing how to get out of that, not knowing where that stems from, and that's not, to me, being in a place of depression. It's not as easy as the anxiety, and in my opinion, is the anxiety and the anger to kind of just identify and pull yourself out. You know what I mean? It feels like it takes some work. It feels like it takes some work from others too, because I just remember me at the lowest point. If it wasn't for, you know, of course, my faith in God, but also the people around me, they kind of like, hey, dude, like, you at a different place right now. Like, you need to, and I think that kind of helps stem some things, but that's
you know what? And I'll let you go. So someone told me something, and it made so much sense to me. They said, people treat you how you tell them you feel, or something like that. So unless you like talk to them, right? So if you are presenting like, oh, I'm good, you know what I'm saying? For the most part, people are going to treat you that way. And I realize now that's kind of something I did where, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, I feel like a lot of people just didn't know, because, you know, you present like, okay, I'm good.
It's like the first thing that people hear from any of us is what they see with their eyes. Is that what you say?
Yeah.
I mean, depression is I know we were talking a little earlier off camera about it. I mean, for me, it's been something that I'm 41, so for me, it feels like depression has been part of half of my life. You know, I could look back at times like my father leaving at a young age, and then maybe having moments of it, when just thinking it's being sad, and your mom or other family members just be like, he's gonna be okay. Just give it some time. And then you find other outlets, and you kind of like forget about it. Then the next situation may come. And then maybe when I think I was probably in college too, my grandfather died on my birthday. And I saw what it did to my mother. And then I saw our family spiral out of control after that, like losing housing and moving again, and no stability. And I think from that moment, I kind of got comfortable because I wasn't sure when. I lost a little bit of belief, right? I think some of the depression, at least for me and my thoughts are, it comes from maybe sometimes a lack of faith and a lack of belief that things can and will get better, because you don't know when you're going through it. And then when it seems like the snowball effect, when one thing happens and another thing happens, that snowball starts gradually getting bigger.
Yeah.
Another thing becomes bigger. And then after a while, as it's getting bigger, you just figure a way to adapt in that world. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I didn't realize until somebody else was just like, are you really comfortable? Like when it's really bad, you get really calm. Like that's a good thing though. Like it was we were going through like a tough situation. They was like, when things get bad, we know who to go to because you're really calm in it. So I took that as like, that's what I was supposed to be. So whenever things got bad, it's like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable in this. I can live in this. Now when it's too good, now I'm like, okay, what's about to happen? Because now the ball's got to drop. So for me, it was a lack of faith, maybe. Sometimes it's a lack of belief in myself, a lack of belief in something greater than me. And knowing will I get, like the Get Out analogy, when you're falling, you see that light. So you're falling deeper into darkness, but you still see that light. But that light is so hard to reach that you're just like, after a while, I just rather float. I can still see the light, and at some point, somebody will put their hand in you.
think sometimes we get confused when we talk about depression. I think it's sort of, if we make it really simplistic, it's two types. One is sort of situational, meaning we lose a job, yeah, we should be depressed, right? We lose a family member, things go away that we are accustomed to, we should feel some sort of depression. But then there's the other kind that we really rarely do anything with, and that's sort of the chemical imbalance. And so oftentimes people, will come and will be depressed, not just for a season, but for a long period of time. And it may be a cyclical thing. Maybe, 6 months out of the year, we're feeling this particular way, but we don't even know why. And so we may, and the other thing is, depression presents itself differently too. So it's not just, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I don't feel well, so I'm going to stay in my room, stay in the bed. The person that's out there with many different sexual partners, that's out there spending money, that's just living extremely carefree, they're depressed too. And so we don't really pay too much attention to that. We may label that something different, but depression runs on a spectrum, a wide spectrum. On either end, you'll see someone that may be experiencing some symptoms of depression. I just think that, in our community, we should be doing more to treat it, doing something about it, not just ignoring it. And I think one of the first things we can do is sort of identify it. And our family members usually do that. They'll see something. You're not acting like yourself. You're doing something different. And so we should pay attention to that. Maybe something is going on. Maybe we should seek some help. Maybe we should see a therapist. Maybe we should at least talk to somebody else that may or may not know a lot about us. Maybe they can tell us what we should do next, point us in the right direction. So I just think, as a whole in our community, we should do a bit more in sort of identifying what it is and then what our solutions, some of the solutions that we should, be paying attention to help treat it.
Yeah, I would definitely say, so I'm mad at you for bringing up this topic because it's the one where I got to put off, take off the therapist hat, because I think I was functionally depressed for years. The problem is that I was still producing and still, achieving and doing stuff at such a high level that people just assumed everything was all right, and I was like asking for help. I was saying like, help. And I couldn't say it loud. I couldn't have the energy to say it loud enough. I couldn't yell help. All I could say was like a little bit. And I think the hardest part was nobody heard it. And then they was like, you all right? I mean, they wouldn't even say you're all right. They say, oh, great job on this. Or, hey, can you do this? Or, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do this. The hell? Huh? And then I said, all right, I got it. What do you need? This, that, and the other. And so that was like for years. And I think it was when I was pastoring, when I first started pastoring. And I remember like a year in, and I'm like, man, this is Jesus. Like, I seem like I only did this 3 years. And I remember literally in the car in front of the church, and I just started crying. I mean, I just literally started crying and not couldn't stop, didn't care to stop. I just didn't. And literally, one of, the guys that had kind of been, walking up and down the street that eventually become a member of the church and everything else like that, he knocked on the car, Red, you all right, man? And immediately, yeah. And, wiped all the tears and went home. And then it was thankfully, I then got back into therapy myself. I was like, look, and it was just that part of always having to achieve and even having normal challenges was like, no, I should be able to run through that. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. So I think so many people are functionally depressed, that they're still producing and they're saying help, but because I'm going to go even deeper, because people are benefiting from what they give, then they're not looking for the crowd help. As long as I'm getting, as long as I'm getting the milk, from the cow, I'm not worried about how much pain the cow is in. And I think that one of the things we do have to do, and I think you've already said it, is not only for those who look different, but for everybody. really be able to ask, and I'll finish with this, is that Pastor Joanne, my mother in ministry, used to do this thing where she would say, "You all right?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm doing good." You know, when I was on the ministerial staff there. And then she would say, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Nah, you know, I'm good." Sometimes she would say it the third time, and that would break us. Because we're so used to just saying we all right. But when somebody cared enough to ask more than once, because you ask once, you just feel that that person's just being polite. You ask second, you might think the person's just being nosy. But when they ask the third time, you're like, all right.
You care enough to ask. Man, that was so deep. That was so deep. Y'all don't understand that day was very deep for us. But it goes even deeper, but because of the time restraints, we couldn't really play the whole conversation. So be sure to check it out on Hip Hope Nation TV. All right. Whew. So let me introduce our next guest. His name is Mr. Ashton Morgan. I was fortunate enough to chop it up with Ashton Morgan at the barbershop. And even though I just met him, I feel like I've known him forever, man. He just got that vibe, you know? And plus, I need to shout you out, too, because you came from, I don't know where, to come to that barbershop. Man. It was like an hour or two before you got there. But I appreciate you coming, man. But let me tell you about Ashton, though. He treats individual couples, families, and children for over 12 years. Ashton is an approved clinical supervisor who currently provides clinical supervision to marriage and family counselors and professional counselors. His areas of expertise are infidelity, divorce, separation, addictions, children with behavioral issues, and men's issues. It is his belief that meaningful change comes from deep within. It's not something that can be imposed by the therapist, nor are you expected to do it alone. Mr. Morgan has a BA in business and an MBA in business administration. He has his master's in marriage and family therapy and focuses on therapeutic practice of solution-focused brief therapy and cognitive behavior therapy. Whew, got it out. Mr. Morgan is currently completing his dissertation for a doctorate in marriage and family therapy. I would like to welcome Mr. Ashton Morgan. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I was looking forward to this opportunity to kind of share some information with everyone in reference to the depression. And so I'm looking forward to getting started.
Good. Well, I'm not going to hold you then. If you're not looking forward, it's funny because though, when we talked about which area you wanted to focus on today, you went immediately to depression. So I know this is kind of like your wheelhouse. So I'm anxious to hear what you had to say. How can you help the folks when they may be dealing with depression? I'll leave it up to you.
Oh, great. Well, I have a slide presentation I really want to go through with everyone because I want folks to make sure you have, a piece of paper, pen, pencil to be able to jot down some notes because the information I'm going to give you today will be things that you can actually use right away and do something with. All right. So we're going to go to that first slide and we're going to sort of get started here. But just remember, be prepared to write down some notes because when you leave today, when we're done today, I want you to be able to do something with that information. I want you to be able to act on it, make a phone call, have a conversation, do something is what the goal is for today. With the first slide. Let's see here. Well, while we're waiting on the first slide, I'm just going to get started. So what I want to do is talk to you guys today about several aspects of depression. So typically what happens is that we will think we know what depression looks like. As we're looking, we would see that someone may look sad, they may look like they're depressed, they may look confused, preoccupied. Sometimes people will look like they're dealing with something physical, like they have a headache or something like that. Those are most of the times, what we identify with as someone being depressed. In addition to that, when we look at the next slide, we'll see that depression doesn't always look like that. Sometimes depression will look like, oh, there we go. Great. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we can go to the next slide so we can get caught up here. Sometimes depression, we think depression looks like, the next slide after that depression will look like this, but it doesn't always look like this. Sometimes it looks very different in that we may see individuals that may look happy. They'll never look, like they're sad. They're always smiling. We'll even ask them, is anything wrong? Because we don't see that anything ever bothers you. You never say anything negative. You never, express anything that's of a concern to you. Everything's always great, fine, good, no problems. But it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes folks will even indicate to you that nothing ever goes wrong in their life. Sometimes, I just want you to know that is another level of depression. When we see individuals like that, don't assume they're not depressed. Don't assume nothing's bothering them, because sometimes things are. Sometimes there is an issue. Sometimes there is a problem. And sometimes, we need to sort of be cognizant about it so that we can be able to support them, help them while they're, seeking help, or identify that, hey, you may think things are fine, but I'm seeing something different, buddy. So I'm gonna need you to do something, talk to someone, pray, have conversations with, friends or, people that are there or not there. I don't care what you need to do, but you need to do something to be able to support yourself. As we go to the next slide, we're going to take a look at sort of those things, those signs of depression. So with this particular slide, I want you to, not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through quite a few of them. So the first one, increase in physical pain or chronic medical issues. That is an area that's usually a problem with increased pain or chronic medical issues. So when someone's depressed, you will feel things. You'll feel body aches. You can feel pain in your legs. You can have headaches. You can feel, pain in the back of your neck. You can be tense. Don't assume that, oh, it's just allergies, or I slept wrong, or, this is something that's temporary. If it's temporary, it'll be temporary. If it's not temporary, if it's something other than that that's causing that, it'll continue to persist, and it'll be something that's with you for a while. Loss of focus. If you're ever at work and you're thinking, I can't keep focus. If you're at home, you can't keep focus. People are talking to you, you're paying attention, but then you're not. Then you have to ask them to repeat themselves. Or you walk into a room thinking, all right, I need to do X, Y, Z. And then you're like, okay, I forgot what I walked in here for. And you do that multiple times, not just once. Anger is an area. Sometimes when we're angry, we think it's just anger. But I need you to understand that that is an emotion. Something is fueling that. We call it and we see it as anger, but something's fueling that anger. It could be that you are embarrassed. It could be that you are tired. It could be that you're annoyed. It could be something that's fueling that for you. And when you are depressed, sometimes we'll see anger. We'll see it over and over and over again. And we won't think much of it. Our family members will experience it. They'll know something's going on. They'll probably be tired of it and want you to do something about it. They don't want you to be angry with them all the time. We go to the next issue, number 4, is substance abuse. Oftentimes I see individuals who come and they will say, yes, I do feel depressed. And then I'll ask them, how much do they drink? And they'll tell me they're drinking a fifth of this or a fifth of that. And one guy, explained the whole theory to me of, Jesus turning water into wine. When I told him, I had to tell him, look, I ain't got time for that foolishness. But what I want you to do is track what you're drinking, how much you're drinking, when you're drinking. If you're finding yourself drinking more often than not, maybe you used to have one drink every now and then, all of a sudden you find yourself drinking a lot more, there's a good chance that something is fueling that, right? The other thing is drinking is a depressive. When you drink and you are depressed, you will continue to feel depressed. It won't go anywhere. The same with the use of marijuana or edibles. If you're depressed, you're smoking marijuana, you're using edibles, that's where you'll stay. That won't change for you. So I need you to think about and just start tracking how much you smoke, how much you drink, when you do it, what the amount is, what you're actually drinking, what's going on for you in that particular space around that particular time. That'll help you sort of determine whether or not you're depressed, whether or not something is really going on and you need to seek some support for. Sexual dysfunction is a big thing as well. So individuals may be very sexually active, and then all of a sudden that may level off. They may decide they don't want to be as active anymore, that they will, if sex happened, several times a week, and all of a sudden it's once a week, and then next thing you know, it's not even once a week, maybe it's once a month or something like that. That becomes an issue for them. Or their partner. The partner now is pissed off because they're wondering, why are we not having sex as often as we used to? What happened? What's going on? So just kind of keep track of that. That's also an issue as well. Suicidal thoughts, and congrats to those who got this particular question right with the questions that we asked. But yes, 7 to 8 Black men usually die from suicide every single day. It's a huge number. It's a huge number because what we do is we don't pay attention to what's going on with us internally, ourselves, our body, the way we're thinking. Our family members or friends see something odd going on. And sometimes our family members and friends may or may not do anything to help intervene, to draw attention to what's going on with us. So things will get misplaced, or we're just pretty good as Black men in hiding things and just saying the same old line. Yeah, everything's cool, fine, no problems. I'm good, knowing that we're not. So as we look at the next slide, we will begin to sort of talk about some of the treatments for depression. And so there's 2 major treatments I want to talk about. So the next slide is going to talk about the first treatment, and that is medication. So many of us don't want to take medication, don't like medication, not interested in medication, particularly because of the side effects. And I get it. But there are sometimes that medication is necessary. And I always tell people there's 2 types of depression. One is situational. You lose your job, your dog dies, you lose a relationship, you lose money, your home, you don't have your home anymore. Yes, you should feel depressed. Those are situational things. If those things change, the depression most likely would lift. But then there's the other type of depression. That is a depression which is more chemically based. That's the type of depression that is not rooted in situational circumstances. That's the type of depression that will occur if, it could be a cyclical thing. It could be certain times throughout the year you're really down and depressed and you don't know why. It could be certain times throughout the day that you consistently feel that way and you don't understand why. It could be a situation where it begins to impair you. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to bathe. You don't want to talk to anyone. You don't want to interact with anyone. It becomes a major issue for you. In those particular instances, medication could be helpful. So I want you to be open to that. All right. I know many of you haven't even gotten the COVID vaccine yet. I get it. All right. But just be open to the possibility that something out there could help you and assist you. And as we look at the next slide, I want to talk about something that's really, really, really important. So even if you decide you don't want to do medication, there is counseling. Counseling is beneficial to all of us. And I'll tell you, I would have to say for the past 3 years or so, I've had and have seen a great influx of Black males seeking therapy who want someone to talk to. And the number one thing that they always tell me is this: I've never thought I'd be doing this. Never thought that I would ever talk to someone, tell them my business, tell them how I feel and what's going on with me. I don't even tell my family members or my spouse or my girlfriend. I don't do that. I keep this stuff to myself. They also would identify that the reason why they need to talk to someone because they can't do it anymore. It became too much for them, too much of a burden. They begin to see things in their life change for the worse. They've tried whatever it may be, and it has not gotten any better. And they realize I need to talk to somebody. Maybe having that conversation can help me. And so you'll see that, with counseling, you have an opportunity to develop a relationship with someone, talk about the things that may be affecting you. work through some issues that may, come up in your life. Most folks who seek it, including myself, we find that it's very beneficial, right? So this other thing I would share, most individuals would say, I'm seeking counseling not because I just need it, but I didn't even know my spouse was seeing a counselor. I didn't know my cousin, my friend, my homeboy was seeing a counselor. I had no clue until I mentioned something to them about it. And then they say, oh yeah, I see someone as well. So, if you have a family member or friend that all of a sudden, they got their mind right, I would probably ask them, hey, you seen a counselor? They probably tell you, yeah, I see somebody. They help me. As we look at the next slide, I want to sort of, this is one of the most important parts. So we're going to go over sort of next steps. So the slide after this, the next slide, we're going to talk just briefly about some of the things that you could do. All right. So one of the first things I want you to sort of consider is one of the things you can do is talk to a family member and friend, because I want you to look forward to sort of finding a counselor. So just ask around. Do they see someone? Are they seeing someone? You'll be surprised. They'll tell you, who they're seeing, whether or not they like the relationship, how helpful it is to them. You can also talk to your medical provider, get additional information from that individual. Also, when you see your medical provider, please don't just show up there without any questions. Don't show up without any questions, or don't have things, not written down, things that you need to ask or tell the person. Be prepared, all right? And be honest. Tell them if things are going on with you. Don't just tell them what you think they want to hear, but tell them everything, because that's the best way they can be able to help and support you. Other things I want you to consider as well is that there are alternative treatments out there, like acupuncture, massage therapy, aromatherapy, exercise. You even seeing a dietitian to, change the things in your diet. There are things that you can do to be able to support yourself and help yourself, so you don't have to deal with depression. So it doesn't have to be a long-term thing. You can get it to the point where it could be manageable for you, so that you can live the life that you want to live. Enjoy your family members and friends. That's what's most important, right? So that's all I have to share with you for right now. The next slide, I give you my information, but, most importantly, what I want you to do is going forward is to don't be afraid to share. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to get the information you need. Connect with a therapist. Don't be afraid to, if medication is an option for you or will be helpful for you, to take the medication. Don't be afraid of those things. I want you to be open. I want you to be honest. I want you to pursue those things that are going to make you a healthier person. That's all I have.
So powerful. So powerful. Thank you so much for that information. Brothers, I hope you were taking notes. I hope y'all were really listening. Just don't be afraid. Take ownership of whatever you're feeling. Thank you so much, Asher, for being with us today. That was so powerful, man.
No problem.
All right. Appreciate you. All right. So we're going to take a quick breather. All right. We're going to hear from a couple words from our sponsors. Thank you so much, sponsors, for helping us out. So we're going to just go to one of our sponsors for a quick commercial, if it's all right. All right. Be back in a second. Community of Hope AME Church, faith-based organization, Dreams Work, nonprofit and Team Gov, for-profit organization came together to provide resources to the community. The collaboration exists to empower, educate, and elevate our community by creating gainful, educational, employment, entrepreneurial opportunities utilizing the digital economy. Additionally, the collaborative provides food, assistance, and other resources to the community.
At Butter Bros, which the acronym is Brothers United Together to Achieve Honor, they blend community, Christ, and connections through clothes or engagement through apparel. Their apparel is geared to be conversation starters, used to empower, encourage, and uplift the community. All proceeds go back into the community where they feed the less fortunate, expose at-risk youth to other options in life, all while giving life lessons. They can be found at butterbros.com. That's BUTTAH, bros, BROS.com, or their IG handle is at Butterbros, BUTTAH, BROS, Butterbros. At Butter Bros.
So yeah, we in this barbershop, man. I gotta send a shout out to my man Marcel Newman from A&M Cuts and Salons. Yeah, ever in Waldorf, even if you're not in Waldorf, come check out your man. This joint is crazy in here. He got barbers, he got beauticians, he got tattoo artists in here, man. Come check them out. This is the spot to be, and it's set up for anybody who is a little apprehensive about coming out because of COVID. Man, you should see this place. It's a beautiful place, man. You'll feel secure, feel safe. Shout out to my man Marcel. Yeah, shout out to Marcel and A&M Cuts. That's where we shot the barbershop scenes. And shout out to our other sponsors as well. We appreciate y'all, Butter Bros, Team Gov, DreamWorks Inc. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for your support. All right, so we're going to move into our last barbershop scene. I know you're going to relate to this one. See if you can. It's very interesting, very impactful. Let's roll to our last barbershop scene. Yeah, let's just talk about just manhood. Just what is being a man, what it takes to be a man. Like, all right, so I just took the second vaccine, right? And that thing had me out. I was out. 2.5 days. I was gone. So the first day, my family, my wife, and my kids, they were like, okay, Daddy, not feeling well, go ahead, But the second day, when I was still feeling bad, they're like, all right, Daddy, like, get up. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you don't, this ain't you. Like, I didn't have any control over it. So there's times we don't always have, and we have those conversations in my house. But, like, sometimes you got to present yourself in a certain way to people, that image. But outside of that, but inside, you're feeling like, look, I really want to discuss how I'm really feeling. Like that being a man, like being, especially a black man, and really being able to express yourself and stuff, you don't really have a whole lot of outlets to have that expression. How you feel about that?
As I've gotten older, my idea of manhood has changed. My idea of manhood isn't machismo or toughness. It's how do you respect the people that you care about? How do you love the people you care about? To your point earlier, am I part of a community? Because no man is an island. Any man that's an island is going to eventually be by himself. So how do I become better, not just for myself, but for the people that are around me? Is now my mind shift of manhood. If that makes sense.
So, like, mine's been like evolving a lot in years anyway. But I kind of talked about before about this whole idea of being whole, because what I'm finding is when you're whole, then you treat people better, you all this stuff. Because like now, to the point, I can tell I can assume how people feel about themselves based on how they talk about and treat other people. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I've come to the point of like thinking of like this whole manhood thing as being whole, right? But here's the other thing. So I also have this background of working in the space of like diversity and inclusion, specifically in the LGBT space, right? Where, things like men, like it, and again, I'm from a very traditional background. I'm a very traditional person. So there's always value in contrasting perspectives. But what that has allowed me to do is, get to this place of seeing like manhood as this whole idea of being whole, because that's when you can be, whether it's a protector, whether it's whatever, like, and it kind of goes into like the whole depression, anxiety, all this stuff. It's like, if you not a full glass, you can't pour into anybody else. And as a man, I think all of us and most men consider manhood being able to like sustain, pour into the people around you. You know what I mean?
But I feel like what you're saying has a lot of validity, but I also feel like the whole protector, the provider, and all that stuff gets skewed So if you're not the breadwinner, does that makes you less of a man? Like it really has to. You may not question it, but people around you or society may look at you in a certain way. So, and I think that's where we start to get these issues in relationships, because when you're not the breadwinner, let's face it, our especially our Black women, they killing it, and if you're not comfortable with them killing it in your skin, then it becomes like, oh, I'm less of a man, or I'm not where I need to be. You start looking at you instead of applauding what she's doing. It's more like I ain't holding up my end of the bargain.
Doesn't that really depend on your training or your experiences in your family? Now, if you didn't see that growing up, then you don't know what it is. You don't know what it is to be a man. You don't know what it is to have responsibility, to raise your children, to be in a relationship with someone else. You don't get it because you didn't see it, particularly if it's a good relationship, right? You don't know what that looks like. You don't know how to have one. Okay, all you know how to do is what you were taught. I mean, if you did something wrong and someone came at you telling you, shut the F up, close your mouth, don't speak, don't say anything, go to your room, if you had a room, or sit down and shut the F up. I mean, if that's what you were taught, then that's all you know. So then you give that to the rest of your family members and your children, and that's what you teach them. But in addition to that, not having that puts us at a disadvantage. So that now we're adults. Now we want to be in a relationship. We don't know how. We struggle with that. We struggle with how to deal with conflict. We struggle with how to communicate because we were never taught how to communicate in a healthy way. We struggle with sort of just being in a relationship at all. I mean, one of the things I see a lot is, for a lot of the Black males that I treat is, they struggle with the area of sex. They really, really struggle with that. What it looks like, what their definition of sex is, how to have sex. They struggle with that. The idea that, as a man, you just focus on yourself and not your significant other, that sucks. Your significant other ain't gonna stay there long. They're gonna find somebody else that can do the job that you ain't able to do. But if you weren't taught that, you don't know. If you weren't taught how to love them, then you don't know. All right, a lot, and I'll just share with you briefly. For some time, well, it depends on the time of the year, I would see a lot of pastors. I would see a lot of folks in the clergy, and so they would come to me, and for the same issues that we all experience, communication issues. They can't resolve conflict, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times they would come and they would have these ideologies of, this is my spouse. They're supposed to honor me. They're supposed to be, support me, be subservient to me. I'm the man of this household. But then they forget all that goes into that, the love part, that they're commanded to love that other individual. That's it. But what they pick up along the way is, well, I'm going to love them, but I'm also going to beat the crap out of them. I'm also going to hit them. I'm going to talk to them any kind of way. I always will tell them, hey, point that out to me in the Bible. What book in the Bible that tells you that you're to put your hand on your wife, that you're to talk to your children any kind of way, that you ought to just create chaos in your household? And once you find that, share it with me. It's not that I want to use it, but I'm curious of where it is, or where it says that at. When I talk to them about that and ground them a bit, you're supposed to just love your children. You're supposed to just love your spouse. That's all they want you to do. But then, like I said, the other part is sometimes they don't know how. They struggle with that.
Can you love your spouse without loving yourself?
No.
That's no. And I guess that kind of like changes your ideal of what love is. Because I feel like if I can't do that to myself, then I won't be able to love my child or my significant other the way that they need to be loved.
So I guess to that point, because so many Black men, like you said, don't know, maybe not know how to love, because we say a lot of us were raised with, say, a single mother. And as I get older, you start to understand things differently, that mommy may be dealing with some hurt from that relationship with daddy not working. Mommy might have to deal with having to have a job and trying to make rent. and find a place to live. And now that trickles down to you as a boy trying to figure out, okay, mom doesn't say I love you and hug you. How do you now go into a relationship with a woman and say I love you and hug you when you don't necessarily, that wasn't, like you said, taught to you. So that lovey-dovey, like, yeah, I'm cool, give me some love, but all right, back away now. You're doing too much. You know what I'm saying? How do you teach, I guess, young men and men who don't know that, where that love doesn't come from home? How do you find that?
What he just said, start loving yourself first. Figure that out. And then you have something to give to someone else. Then you pick up those pieces that you don't have so that you can actually pour into your spouse, pour into your children. And it's not difficult, but it requires some time. It requires an individual to say to themselves, they don't have it all, they don't know it all, and they need help. It requires them to do something really huge, like see a therapist. That's big. Because in our community, when we see a therapist, what does that mean? We are what?
What's going on with you?
We're crazy, right? Yeah. So that's hard for us to do because we don't want to think we're crazy. We don't want no one else to think that we're crazy if they know that we're seeing a therapist. But I would share some really good news with you. So I've noticed, I'm not quite sure my friend noticed as well, as a therapist, we see a lot more, maybe the past year or two, but I've seen a lot more Black males come into my practice wanting help, which is very good. And these are individuals who say, well, I've never thought I'd do this ever. But I realize I'm having issues. I'm home because of COVID. I got my spouse here. We only had sex once in 6 months. I said, oh, okay, so that's a problem. Or we argue all the time. Or our children are going crazy and we just don't know what to do with them. And so it's now they're sort of asking for help and wanting some direction, some guidance. And so a lot of the work that I do is what you just talked about, just helping them be more in touch and loving themselves so that they can have something to pour into other individuals. So.
And I think that's so important. I think one of the things that really we struggle with is identity. Because the thing is this, is that I think that our, Black sisters, sure enough, definitely we love them. They have done a lot to create identity and to really reinforce that. So Black girl magic, all of those type of things. So we're able to see that there really is not the same thing on the male side. It just isn't. And so therefore, I think the challenge comes in is that as Black men, often we have had our identity defined by other people.
That's true.
So the coach determines whether or not, you a baller, you this, that, and the other. The persons will determine, you a pimp, you a player, you this, that, and the other. You a thug, you this on the streets, all of that. But then even in relationships, because the thing is that it's interesting with me seeing a lot of couples, one of the things that has shifted is that sometimes, quote unquote, if a man is too sensitive, then it's a case where the woman might be like, he all in his feelings. I need him to man up. I need him this, that, and the other. Right. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That's different than the non-communicating. He talked too much. I don't need to hear all the feelings. Just go ahead and do it, and so therefore, it is very important for any person, but definitely for the Black man, to be able to find his sense of identity in himself first and become secure in that before, unfortunately, having to have a lot of other people weigh in, because that can cause identity crisis. And we've seen it a lot of times, athletes, and to a certain extent, not going to talk about Yeezy, not going to talk about Jackson, but think about it. All of those persons who we would say maybe forgot who they were. No, they're doing the same thing we do. They're just having far more people tell them who they are. And if you tell me that I'm this and you give me $1 billion, I might want to be there. And so therefore, I think that sense of identity is significant and at times difficult to really lock into. So even as a pastor, I have an identity as a pastor that is probably different than some of my peers. And it was a challenge for me to be able to say, no, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, I'm not going to just use Canton spirituals in the sermon, you know, I'm going to use some Biggie, you know, and there you go. And so that is something that I think we constantly fight against, but it is a good fight.
So define this then. What is, in your interpretation of manhood, what is being a man to you?
I think it's being true to who you are. And I know that sounds like so cliche. I mean, it really is, but it is different for every person. I mean, it really is unique for every person. So I think we often don't give ourselves the time to listen to ourselves. Like, if you think about it, it's nothing for a woman to take a vacation by herself.
That's true.
To go away or to take the girls trip, and they'll go and then they'll sit by lava and waterfalls, you know, but they'll contemplate and everything else like that. I'm just saying, you know, but think about it. And I'm just being honest, the only male trip I ever heard about, unfortunately, when I was much younger, was going to Brazil. And then that was not a good trip to find yourself. And then you found something else to drink on yourself. So, but think about it. When is the last time that you've ever thought about your identity? That you ever thought about who I am? So, you know, you look at older books like, you know, Invisible Man and all that they were actually going through thinking about who they are as a Black man. We often just don't take the time to do that. And so sometimes, I'm not saying go to a hotel or something, but it may be taking a day off from work when everybody else is gone and just sitting and saying, okay, I am, and just writing down all the words that come to mind.
That's good.
And just see, and I think, so the answer is literally inside you. We just normally don't take the time to really do it. And let me tell you this, the person who helped me a lot, believe it or not, even deal with some of these things, was Charlamagne the God. Because he would talk about a lot of stuff on the Breakfast Club, and I do credit him in some ways with allowing Black male introspection in a way that we normally have. So I'm not lifting him up as, like, you know, obviously the paragon or the example, but I'm saying he opened doors of things that we normally wouldn't have talked about.
Man, I love that segment. I love that segment. In the words of Kendrick Lamar, I love myself. I mean, you gotta love yourself. That's what the bottom line is. I mean, if you don't love yourself, it's really hard to understand what this thing that we're going through called manhood is. So I would just start there. All right. So it's time to introduce another guest. This brother has a BA in psychology, a BA in sociology from UNC Chapel Hill. He holds a master's in clinical psychology from North Carolina Central University. He did his internship at Duke Pain Clinic and has private mental health practice, which includes therapy assessment and testing. He's the clinical director and he's a supervisor of about 30 other therapists. And he's the owner of a practice in Durham, North Carolina. Please welcome Mr. Gene Hoskins.
What's up, family?
Doing, brother?
I'm well, man. This has been a beautiful experience. Normally when I present, I don't see so many people that look like me. So I need to take at least 10 seconds to shout out the two other brothers who so eloquently spoke on mental health, man. To see somebody like us in this field is like a unicorn. We make up 4% of the entire psychology and counseling labor force. So brothers, thank y'all for representing us and doing it so well.
Absolutely. That makes me feel good to even have a space, you know, for brothers to really be able to communicate to each other. I think that is awesome. All right, so I'm not gonna waste your time, brother.
All right, man.
You can speak to this space about manhood. I know you are the guru in this space. So
I don't know about guru.
Well, you can give us some very important information. So
yeah, man, I absolutely am excited to do that.
It's all yours.
Okay, cool. We can start. I have a presentation. Thank you for the time I have. I know it's kind of, don't want to belabor the moment. My name is Gene Hoskins. I am a master's level psychologist here in North Carolina. So why are we here? A couple of years ago, I had a great opportunity to do research, and I wanted to see the correlation between the perception of paternal relationship in childhood and how it plays into current attitudes and self assessment of aggression, masculinity, and self-esteem in adulthood. I want to see the interplay. So I said a whole bunch of words to say, if you perceive your father to be present and had quality time, how does that influence your attitudes and self-perception of yourself as an adult male? So as we're moving along to the next slide, I conducted research on 97 African-American college students. We call it a convenience sample, right? And again, I said, I want to see the relationship between the perception of the quality of paternal relationship as it relates to self-esteem, aggression, and your self-perceived masculinity. And we're moving along. And I'm gonna tell you, I found some pretty interesting things and the reason I had this research is in psychology, we assert that we have something called modeling. And children model their behaviors, their ideas, their view of the world after the same-sex parent. And I want to know, if the same-sex parent was absent, and who do they model themselves after? So this was the context of the problem. This is kind of what made me begin to do this research. At the time in the U.S. Census in 2011 said nearly 72% of African-American homes were headed by a single parent. Overwhelmingly majority, meaning there were some homes that were led by a single father, but majority of that were single women. Nearly 2 in 3 Black children will live just their mother at some point, and we're moving along. And to me, I wanted to say, well, I wanted to understand how impactful was the father's role, and we're moving along. Again, I mentioned fathers actually are the blueprint for sons, and mothers are the blueprint for their daughters. And so as we begin to move more through this presentation, I kind of want to begin to tell you more about the research, and we're moving along. Okay, so I want to see what does the research say so far about this particular topic, right? I want you to understand that in psychology, there's an absence of research on African Americans because there's not a lot of people who do research on African Americans. So I think it's important for us who are in a practitioner role to add to the body of psychology. So in 1992, Ferris, one of the first researchers, made a claim that the quality of relationship was more important to the child than the quantity. I always heard people say, well, I was there for my children a lot. And I say, well, were you there in substance or were you there by body, right? There is growing literature that a father's high quality involvement is beneficial to the development of a child. And we're moving along. We're moving along. Because I want to tell you some more about the topic before I begin to tell you why this is important. Another research, because again, I told you I want to see what are they saying about this particular topic. He specifically noted that a father could be present in the home, but still emotionally inaccessible to the child. These researchers stress the importance of considering the quality of the relationship rather than the quantity. This was particularly interesting to me because I grew up in a single parent home. And I remember going to college and I had a friend whose father was present and he was the breadwinner. But he always told me he always felt as though his father was not present with him. And he always appraised their relationship to be negative. And I'm going to tell you kind of what that meant for him as we move along this slide. Moving. Okay. And this part is super interesting to me because media will paint a different picture of Black fathers. But again, I told you, I'm trying to add to research that's not quite there for us yet. So research found that African-American fathers who were found to be more involved in the socialization of their children and spend more quality time if they were non-residential compared to non-residential fathers. What does that mean? It says that African-American men who lived apart from their children were more likely to have a relationship with their children compared to white or Caucasian men who did not live with their children. And most people are like, well, I don't understand. What does that mean? Why did that mean? What does that mean? I began to do research and I found the majority of non-residential white fathers, when they actually left the home and left their children, they left and started other families. and started other families with other children, right? Whereas they were saying that more African American men have responsibility, although they were not in the home, to have a presence somehow in their child's life. So we're moving along. I always thought that was really interesting because media would say something else about that. Again, findings suggested that African American non-resident fathers were more likely to be present in their child's life, right? And so I want to tell you this. Why is any of this important, Brother Gene? Why are you talking to us for 5 minutes about the importance of how we appraise paternal relationship? And a lot of us on here are fathers or godfathers or uncles. Fathers give sons self-esteem and they give their daughters self-worth. You matter. How you navigate relationships with your children matter. How you navigate relationships with your mentees matter. I love this particular meme. It says, boys will be boys until someone teaches them, right? So this is what I found. The type of relationship men had with their fathers during childhood was related to their self-esteem as men. Okay, men with high self-esteem reported their fathers as being highly involved and emotionally available, more than men with low self-esteem. Okay, we determined that men with high self-esteem perceived their fathers as more loving. Moreover, perception was linked to self-esteem development. If I perceived that my father was there for me and loving, it did something by increasing my self-esteem. We call that a positive correlation. And we're moving along because I want to get you some more information. I got 1 more minute. I love this one too. It says, in 1995, research says that father-absent boys rated father-present boys as being more masculine, and father-present boys rated father-present boys as being more masculine. So we hypothesized that fathers being in the home gave their sons a sense of more masculinity, and those boys who absolutely saw the difference. Okay, we're moving along. And we'll continue moving on. I don't want to belabor the moment. So researchers asserts the closer the child feels to their biological father, the less aggressive and delinquent behavior the child will have. So as we're moving along, I'm gonna tell you, we found if there was a quality relationship, if the adult male perceived that to be a quality relationship with their father, they had higher sense of self-esteem, lower aggression, and they had a higher sense of self-perceived masculinity, right? So why did I tell you all of this? I want you to understand, never underestimate the power of mentorship. Even though fathers may not be here, guess what I found in my research? We found that the presence of an uncle, a coach, a pastor, a grandfather, and stepfather still allowed young men a framework to model and contribute to positive views of their aggression, self-esteem, and self-perceived masculinity. As I was growing up, I had a pastor, I had coaches, I had a grandfather that when I could not look to my father at that time, I knew I could pattern myself after them. I want you to think about all those young men who are in your life who are uncovered, and I need you to be the blueprint for them. Takeaway points, and I'm done. Fill in the gap for a young man who may not have a model. The quality of relationship matters for both your sons and your daughter's father, and physical presence does not mean emotional presence. Thank y'all so much for your time, family.
That is so awesome and powerful. Listen, don't, like you said, Gene, brothers, don't believe that stereotype that fathers are not there. They are there. They are. We have to sharpen up our tools. If that's what I'm hearing from you, but we're definitely there, and we have to work on the self-esteem issues, man. So thank you for that, Gene. I appreciate you so much, sir.
And just don't underestimate your power over your children's life and those who are not your children. There's some people that are looking to you, you don't even know it.
Absolutely. Mentors, coaches, pastors, everybody. Find somebody that lives around your way and be a mentor.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. All right, so we're gonna move on. We're almost done, man. This went by fast. this is the cool part of the show right now. We're gonna show you our interview with DJ Dirty Rico. If you are in the DMV, then you know about Dirty DJ Rico. He is he's a DJ. He's been DJing for over 25 years. You can catch him on Magic 102.3, 92.7, Go Radio. Man, this dude is so famous that when we were trying to do this interview, we barely got through it because people just ride by, hey, DJ Rico. But I want you to listen to him and our pastor, Pastor Tony Lee. And by the way, he has his own radio show, Sunday Morning Hope, 95.5, shameless plug. And listen to both of them as they had interview each other. Well, I don't know if it was an interview. It's more like a conversation. But it was so cool because, you know, they talked about the history behind their friendship, and they talked about how important it is to have friends and accountability. I don't know why I'm telling y'all. Let's just do this. Let's just cut to the interview and see how Pastor Tony Lee and DJ Rico think about friendship and accountability. Let's go to the video.
Hey folks, look, welcome to the Men's Ministries Mental Health Shape Up. And I know you've been blessed by the conference so far, and it's an amazing summit. Shout out to all the men's ministry. But look, I wanted to make sure to be able to just sit and try to chop it up with one of my folks in a place that we share together. This is my main man, DJ Dirty Rico.
Yes, sir.
Y'all know him all over the radio. Y'all know him whether it's Go Radio, whether it's 102.3. Y'all know him back in the day from about every radio station in the
PGC, you know what I'm saying? Everything.
My God. Man, what up, Rico?
What's up, Sherelle? You already know, man.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. It was good to be seen. Let me say that. Let's start there. Let's start there.
That's right now. But one of the things that was important for us to be here by the legend.
Yeah.
Because we got relationships.
Yeah.
Community of Hope as a church started 15 years ago here at the Legend. Right? But you be DJing.
Yeah. Saturday night. Yeah.
Right? And then we come in about 10. We come in around 7.
Yeah.
Set stuff up.
Yeah.
And have church at 10 and 12, man. So we go way back.
I mean, when it comes down to it, man, we was in here partying like crazy, and, you know, everything just that other. And I'll say partying like about 3:30, 3:45. Time to shut down. But then Stepper will run up, start setting the chairs and stuff up. You know what I'm saying? Everybody try to clean up, try to get everything, you know, a little immaculate. You know, we get the spray. Just try to like get the alcohol out the air. But then come here on a Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, boom, service is pumping. And it's like it was no place like home having community hope right here at the Legend nightclub. And, you know, being able to do all of that in this one place and be respected still was amazing.
Man, and so over the years, we've just kept relationships, stayed friends. We were friends before that.
Yes, sir.
Since that, and I consider you one of that circle of folks. That there are times you'll reach out to me to rap about stuff. We'll just talk about stuff. In this mental health awareness month, as we're dealing with brothers in mental health,
right?
I think our relationship is great because it shows how it's good to have a good squad.
Yeah. This is true.
You know what I'm saying? It's good to have folks that you can reach out to when things get a little rough, you get on your mental. Talk a little bit about why it's important for brothers to be able to, you know, kind of get taken care of and be able to work through their stuff.
Well, see, what a lot of folks don't know is Reverend Tony Lee was kind of like that partner that I had in my mind to help me get myself straight before I got married. You know what I'm saying? So it's like more or less when you have somebody that's not even just that buddy, that pal that go shopping with you or go to a party with you or whatever, stuff like that, but just somebody that you can go ahead and confide into and talk to just about, you know, ordinary stuff and some stuff that's just way to the left. But it's somebody that you can confide in, kind of like break down. I had a young man that hit me on a Facebook Messenger just the other day, and he just wanted to talk to somebody different. And he had a little situation that he explained to me that he felt like he was the dad of his cousin, of his 16-year-old cousin, because he had been raped by his aunt. And it's like things that a lot of men deal with that we have a tendency to kind of like hold within ourselves because we don't want to talk to anybody about it. We don't want nobody to feel like that, you know, that we are vulnerable or weak or things. Get out that shell. And it's like, it helps you more or less kind of like bring your mind to a calm, and it helps you get your heart, you know, in order. Because a lot of men dealing with mental issues have that stress that they feel. And we actually don't realize that we're stressing ourselves out, trying to hold back, trying to pull back, or we're expressing too much anger at some points. So it's like, you know, get that one person that you can have as that crutch that you can lean on in a good way, and you won't feel like, you know, I shouldn't have said this, I shouldn't have told you that, you know, and you won't regret having that person around you. You know what I'm saying? Build your bond with them strong people.
So it's interesting because, you know, we all grew up around here. Right?
Yeah.
And we grew up in times in which, you know, we've always been told as little kids, you got to be a go-hard guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Couldn't
yeah.
show no weakness.
Yeah.
Just none of that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you couldn't even let nobody ask you what shoe size you wore.
This
right?
is true.
Dude walked up to you and asked you what shoe size you
Yeah.
wore. Like my size.
Yeah, my side. But see, and again, a lot of us don't understand that hate is a weak emotion.
Right.
And when we sit up and we show more hate than love for each other, we're showing already a weaker side. You know what I'm saying? You mad at him because he got that Jeep or that Cadillac or that Corvette or that Hummer. So why you mad? Talk to him and find out what he did to get it. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, like I said, it's like, right now, in this day and time, mending and making relationships should be more important. Because when it comes down to having that stress up on you, you just go ahead and keep letting it build and keep letting it build. That's when you're sitting up and you're causing yourself to go into a mental breakdown.
So now, real talk, we've been taught you got to be go hard, right? We've been taught not to be vulnerable, to talk to somebody kind of, you know, can show vulnerability.
Right.
But what would you say to brothers about how vulnerability or sharing with somebody isn't weak?
It's not weak at all, because the thing, like I said, it more or less, it shows somebody that you care about who you are as a person. Show somebody that you're trying to deal with what's actually going on instead of letting it build in. And you're aware of, you know what I'm saying, whatever your anger issue is, what you're mad about, what you may be in your feelings about, what you could be hurt about. Because a lot of sayings are hurt people. But the thing is, it can be a way that you as a man can sit up and, you know, talk to someone, express that hurt, because you value how you feel and you want somebody else to do the same thing. It's not, the thing I would say is, for the toughest hustler, the toughest go-getter out here has that soft side and is scared to express it. Don't be. Because see, the thing is, you want your lady to do it, or you may want your kids to do it, but you don't want to do it yourself. Hey, but you don't want to do it yourself. But the thing is, you have to be willing to acknowledge your own pain, your own hurt, your own feelings to others, and it'll help you.
See, and so as we're talking to brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I want to be clear as we talk about mental health awareness, sometimes folks, when they talk about mental health, they just think about therapists.
Right.
But your mental health is around so much more.
Mm-hmm.
It's around finding the things and activities that you enjoy.
Right.
It's about exercise.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the way you eat. It's about the music you listen to.
Yeah.
It's about all of that kind of stuff together. But with all of that, a good therapist can be some help sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
this is true. But I say this for a lot of folks that go to and go through the therapy sessions, let it go. Let it out. Don't hold back. Because if you do, you're sitting up and you're not helping the therapist help you, and you're not helping yourself help the therapist. You know what I'm saying? So you have to sit up, and you can't just go, all right, well, I'm just here because, no. If you're going to use it with a great deal of relieving this up off your chest. Because if you keep it here, you're going to put that stress here. And I've seen a whole lot of us, black men, actually die with more of having heart attacks, strokes, because we're dealing with a whole lot of mental issues that we're not letting go. And we're not putting out to the therapist or to to our pastors or to our friends that we know that are friends. A lot of my friends to me are closer to me than my family. And you're one of them. You know what I'm saying? And I could just call you at points where, Rico, calm down, brother. Well, you know what I'm saying? Come see me. I got you. But it's like that. It's just that. You know what I'm saying? It's something that simple that if you just go ahead and just take the initial jump out and do it and stop feeling like you said, like we're meant to, feel that we don't have to show anybody that we're weak. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of loving yourself. And you gotta love, before you can love that woman that you want to marry or that girlfriend or that beautiful child, you gotta love yourself.
That's right. So I got a couple more quick questions we're done.
Okay.
One, what's your favorite go-go song of all time?
Oh man, my favorite go-go song of all time is Body Snatchers. Rare Essence. Hey!
Second question, what's your favorite carry-out food?
Oh man, chicken wings and some good old fries with some mumbo sauce on the side and some barbecue sauce.
What's your favorite basketball team?
Lakers.
Favorite football team?
Dallas Cowboys.
Favorite all-time boxer?
Sugar Ray Leonard.
All right, last thing, if you had just one more word to share with brothers around mental health and just about being all they can be, what would it be? Look at the camera and you just tell them right now.
Call me. You need to reach out. You need to talk to somebody. You need to holler. You need to scream. You need to go ahead and get some joy up off your chest, some pain up off your heart. You need to stomp your feet. You need to smack a wall. You need to dance a little bit. You need to take a walk over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. You need to go ahead and bounce a basketball. Get some roller skates on. If you need to go ahead and hit a tennis ball, golf ball, call me. Because see, here's the thing. If we don't start reaching out to our men and pulling our men to get up off of that whole rock of I'm the toughest guy in the room, man, stop that. Bruh, trust me. Real men cry and real men help out real men. Hit me. And I'm serious. Call me, bro. 202-498-5077. You think I'm playing? Ask the rep. I'm public, bruh. So the thing is, fellas, get somebody. Reach out to somebody. I don't care who it is. Especially right now in this day and time, the pain that we are letting build up on us is causing us to have the mental problems that we are not letting go of.
My man, DJ Dirty Rico.
And I mean that, call me.
And look, we also got a whole host of resources you can get connected to, whether it is a social services, family services, therapists. It's a rack of stuff we got for you. We got all kinds of stuff for you. I told y'all he famous. Hey,
man, what's that it?
He famous, man. DJ Dirty Rico. He's somebody to y'all just had me talking to somebody.
Hey man,
me and this dude is in a calendar together.
Yes, indeed.
Well, it's some of the coolest brothers in the DMV
that we did right here at the Legend. Yeah. And Angelique Austin, I'm looking for you because I need that one picture that did not make the calendar.
Because it is a y'all understand. If that picture ever hit, it's going viral.
Oh man.
15 years later.
Yes.
Man, I love you, bro.
I love you too, brother. You know it.
Oh, and for everybody who's wondering, we both vaccinated.
Oh, yeah, we got the shots, baby.
So we believe in them shots.
Yeah.
Get shot up, baby. Get your shot.
The right way.
Yes, sir. Ha ha. Holla.
Get shot up, you know what I'm
saying? Get shot up the right way. I hope everybody understood what they were saying. Man, that was such a great interview. That wasn't even an interview. That was just talk amongst friends, man. I appreciate that. Just about, the thought about accountability and being a brother and all those years that they had together, they still connecting with each other. All right, so I'm going to bring up my last guest. I want to introduce you to a brother who devoted a lot of time and energy into this mental health space. I'm excited to present his information to you. His name is Rob Stewart. He received a BS degree in IDS Studies from Old Dominion. He has his master in education. He has 5 utility state patents. That is crazy. He is the co-founder of DuraQuest Technologies and Direct Links, where he partnered with JMU and Novant Hospital. He's dedicated his life to the enrichment of youth through mathematics, as well as serving the homeless communities by creating monthly warm breakfast drive for the past 14 years. Please welcome my brother, Rob Stewart. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man. Get right into it, man. I'm excited for you to share your information. Tell the folks what you got.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone for this opportunity. And it's been refreshing just to hear a lot of our men talk about the importance of mental health. And I think it's a perfect segment for me to actually dive into it because as we talked about anxiety and we talked about depression, the one thing that is really clear that a lot of people you probably heard this cliche before, but the one thing is the main key ingredient I kept hearing is someone say that we have control. And that is true. You do have control. But what my research has done was I want people to understand when you hear the cliche or when you hear the term that someone says, oh, thoughts become things. Well, that is actually true. But I want to break down the anatomy and the physiology of it because when I developed the technology working with George Mason University as well as Novant, I found out that when we have a particular thought, let's say we're anxious or we're being fearful, you have what we call the peripheral nervous system. And with the peripheral nervous system, you have a somatic side and you have a autonomic side. The somatic side is our choice. That's our free will. We're choosing to make these decisions. Our autonomic side has 2 branches. You have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. That means let's say if I see a snake or something like that, see, God created us to have that feeling of fear and anxiousness because when I have fight or flight, literally my perception now says, hey, you need to produce a chemical called norepinephrine, or you need to produce a chemical called epinephrine, and literally your heart start beating fast, your blood pressure is increasing, and those neurochemicals are going to your body parts to tell you, yo, I need to get up out of here. I need to get ghosts. Now, there's a flip side to that. Okay, there's the parasympathetic side. The parasympathetic side is what we call rest and digest. That allows us to be calm, and that allows our body to rest, digest food, get our bodies back in order. And it's almost like you think about a cut. If I cut my hand, you can say, oh, I can go to the doctor and the doctor's going to stitch it up. But the doctors didn't really do anything because there's a natural order. God created a natural healing process that, naturally that cut is going to re-heal itself. So what I need you to understand is that what's happening is that when we're anxious or depressed or we're dealing about something, our mind and our body is creating chemical responses and hormonal responses. So imagine if you're constantly in that state to whereas I'm producing which is a stress hormone called cortisol. I'm going to tell you, when people say, oh, you're going to worry yourself sick or you're going to worry yourself to death, believe it or not, that is literally happening if your body is constantly on a sustained period of stress. There's a chemical response that actually can be measured to identify that, oh wow, there's your stressful situation is going off the charts. In the same way, we can monitor with your blood pressure. Your blood pressure is continuously elevated if you're continuously stressing and going through certain habits and environments that you put yourself in that's causing it to be elevated. So what I've done was developed with a team of researchers. We use LPCs, we use clinical practitioners, as well as engineers and mathematics like myself, where we started designing a technology that actually monitors and communicates and learns to detect when your body is stressed. And we developed a 3-tier system. Now, again, as Aaron mentioned, I believe in ownership. I believe that we as brothers, we need to own our own technology. Okay, we need to create our own platform. So I created 3 tiers. And we have a platform to where the bands that we create, not only does it monitor your breathing and it monitors your habits and what you're going through, you're able to actually communicate with the therapist in real time and stream how you're feeling as he goes through certain situations with you, so that he can develop and become a better practitioner at his tool and his trade to help find out, hey, is this picture, is this image that I'm presenting to him, is this breathing exercise and method, is it working for him? We have a device that do this, and we have a platform that's very unique when it comes to imaging and when it comes to what we call psychoimaging and psychoacoustics. We also have a vision band and a coaching platform that teaches you how to create a vision. Remember, the people without a vision will perish. And we use what we call a VisB, which we want you to visualize, internalize, strategize, and then you build. And we have a platform that helps you create that, because a lot of times we're lost and we're thinking about the past where our mind needs to move forward. I mean, it's written in Philippians 3:13. I want y'all to think about it, look that up and find out. And last but not least, we got the band where they talked about talk to somebody, connect with someone. That we call it check in, check up. You can buy this band for someone. Maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's for your brother, whatever. 2020 has been dramatic and drastic for a lot of us. But now you need to know that, hey, look, am I my brother's keeper? I could check up on my brother, make sure he's okay. He gets a notification that that I just checked up on him. I see that he's fine, and you know what, he ain't dealing with some heart situation or what have you. But at least we keep that bond. So that's what we develop. My email and my information is there. I love to tell you about the technology we developed and how you all can get involved. And even if you would like to purchase one, and that's my information. It's a pleasure. I enjoyed every second of this segment and everyone with the information they share. So thank you for having me.
That is so awesome, man. Thank you. I could think of multiple times when I needed this in my life, just for my own sake, or just my students as an educator. It would have been great for that. And just, in my own personal life, or just checking up on loved ones. So thank you so much for that information. We're going to put out how they can get in touch with you soon. And yeah, man, ownership, Black man owning something, right? 5 utility patents.
Hey, you got to be the creator, and we're the creators. You're the only way to create your destiny. You can't predict the future, but you can create it. And that's what it's all about with that technology.
Absolutely. Bless you, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yes, sir. So now we want to provide you with some mental health resources and information from the county. You can stay connected with the county's resources, such as telehealth, and you can call 211 or text MD to 741-741, or online you can online, and you can go to 22md.org, and you could just call them up and they'll be able to answer any of the information that you request. Before we leave today, also, we want to give you the information that we promised you, the recommendations of the therapists in the area, including some of today's presenters. So to receive this, you have to go to 474747, text Hope Men 474747, and you will receive all of the information from all of the therapists and any of the support that we have provided today. All right. Time to close out. Time flew by, but we are at the end. I hope this conversation does not end right here. Brothers, we can't open up if we can't open up and be honest about what we're going through. If we're not able to get that support that we need, we cannot heal. All right. I believe that God is ready to move us into another level, but he has to take care of those things that are holding us back. And of course, I'm a reverend, so I'm going to say praying and having a strong connection with God is key. But I also hope we did enough today to take out the stigma of seeking help from a mental health professional. There's no shame in that. All right. It's Reverend Aaron. I'm signing off. Listen, if you're looking for a church or you're looking for a new church home, you can always join us at Community of Hope, AME. You look at hiphopenation.com on Sundays, 8, 10, and 12. You can find us on all the major streaming platforms as well. All right. Shout out to that Hope Battalion. What's up, brothers? Thank y'all for joining us. I'm wishing y'all a healthy mind, body, and spirit. Peace and blessings, y'all.
When I call you guys brothers, I understand that word is about we have accepted Christ Jesus as our Lord and Savior. So his blood make us brothers.
Your testimony blesses us too. And that's how we sharpen each other's iron, strengthen our faith.